Hello guys, I wanted to talk to you more tonight about some of the statements that have been made specifically by Michelle Obama about the protest/insurrection event that occurred in DC yesterday, where Trump supporters broke into the Capitol building in order to supposedly overturn the election or something along those lines. Their intention wasn't exactly clear, other than that they want Trump to remain president, and that Trump encouraged and organized this group, at least indirectly, to show up in DC. But the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is that it's unclear that he actually that he went as far as to say to commit violence. He didn't go that far, but his tone was a big part of the problem. But anyway, so Michelle Obama made a statement. She tweeted earlier today that now is the time for Silicon Valley companies to stop enabling this monstrous behavior and to go even further than they have already by permanently banning this man from their platforms and putting in place policies to prevent their technology from being used by the nation's leaders to fuel insurrection. So, Michelle Obama coming out strongly in favor of permanently banning Trump, our president, from having access to various social media platforms such as Twitter and Facebook and even Google, I suppose, because Trump uses YouTube as well. But so she's coming out strong, saying that what Twitter and Facebook are doing right now isn't nearly enough. And it's not just her. There are groups such as the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, the Muslim Advocates Group, and GLAAD. These organizations have all made statements urging social media companies to go even further than what they have already in permanently banning Trump from the platform. Now, as of yesterday, a little bit has changed, where Facebook and Twitter have decided to. Last I've heard, they're banning Trump from Facebook and Twitter until Joe Biden is president. So for the remainder of his term, Trump is banned on these platforms. What's going to happen after he's no longer president is unclear. But I just have to say how insane it is that you have the First Lady of the former President Obama, who is advocating for more corporate control over a publicly elected official. She frames it as if the public official has too much power, in his words, which he is the President of the United States, so yes, his words matter, and he has to be careful with them, and he's done a sloppy job of that, and some of his words are dangerous. He says dangerous things at times, but I can't help but be terribly offended at the idea that she thinks that this is appropriate action, and that these other organizations believe the same. That Trump needs to be permanently banned, and again, it's not like he is no longer a public figure after he's president. And I mean, he may very well run again in 4 years for president. We don't know what's going to happen. He made claims that he's going to run again, so we'll just have to see. And but this just all comes. I feel like people are letting their emotions get the better of them in this instance. After all, this was pretty much expected. I don't know why. Like, what happened in DC yesterday is tragic, but given what we've seen so far. People have been calling for this kind of thing. People have been talking about potential coups and different desperate measures that Trump would use to remain president if and when the election didn't go well for him. And it's been relatively peaceful so far, besides the court cases. It's been and some of the protests outside of ballot locations where ballots are being counted. Things have been pretty calm. So it's like, honestly, the transition is going to be made, and it's going to be made peacefully. And you shouldn't have the former first lady, coming out and making these wild claims out of emotion and an emotional plea to do what's right and protect adult Americans who voted for their president or not, just adult Americans who to deny them that right to know what their president wants to say. If the president of the United States wants to speak to his public directly through a social media platform, Michelle Obama says no, that is not allowed. Not with Trump. He's gone way too far, and he's been violent, he's been dangerous, he's been unconstitutional, and this is where these companies are in a tricky position, and they've consistently been making the wrong position, at least since 2019. Since 2019, this has gone very much in the wrong direction, where we're afraid of what the president might say or do, or who he might inspire to do dangerous things. But this is just this goes way too far. You can't. Michelle Obama should know better. The American people have the right to hear what their president says, even if they disagree with what he says, even if what he says is dangerous or unconstitutional. He's the president. Whatever he says is newsworthy. By definition, whatever the president says is newsworthy, and we have a right to get that information unfettered. And frankly, these organizations not only is Michelle Obama wrong for pushing them, and not only is the NAACP wrong, and the Muslim Advocates Group wrong, and the GLAAD wrong, and the Anti-Defamation League wrong. Not only are all of them wrong in pushing this, and Michelle Obama coming out so publicly and doing so, but Twitter and Facebook and Google really should be facing more government regulations. You have these public institutions and Michelle Obama pushing to give the corporations more control over what we're allowed to say and what we're allowed to hear from our elected leaders, what they're allowed to say. And it's just, what kind of Twilight Zone existence do we live in where that's acceptable? Where public figures are coming out in favor of censorship of other public figures. Trump has really shed some light on the extent of information control that these corporations clearly want, and that a lot of people are complicit in them having. Would encourage them having more. In fact, it just blows my mind how Michelle Obama and these other organizations, these institutions, for people's rights, these civil rights institutions, are coming out so strongly against the president and his ability to speak to his audience, which is you want to talk about civil rights. How about the civil rights of the voters of Trump? The people who voted for him have a right to hear what he wants to say, and even the people who didn't vote for him have every right to hear what he wants to say. He is the president. And those are the civil rights that I want to hear people expressing concern over. What happened in D.C. is a tragedy, but if we learn all the wrong lessons, this kind of thing will continue. And I sure hope it doesn't. And frankly, these tech companies are learning all the wrong lessons. And it doesn't help that you have figures like Michelle Obama who are pushing so strongly and with so little regard for free speech rights, and just handing that off to a corporation to dictate. Twitter and Facebook, they're supposed to be the ones who protect us from dangerous speech. They're the ones who are supposed to guide us through this maze of information. I disagree. let's be adults here and let's reject this notion that social media should dictate what information a public official is allowed to say to their constituents. Let's just ignore democracy and give our free speech control over to Mark Zuckerberg and whatever the Twitter guy is. But these big tech CEOs, they're the ones who should be in control of this information. Some tech oligarch who has never been elected to a public office in their entire life. That does not sound like that's not the future I want to have. So hope you guys agree with me. All right, thank you for your time.